What if the greatest obstacle to your success isn't what you're not doing, but what you're refusing to let go of? Stop for a moment right now and ask yourself, where in your life are you gripping so tightly that you're actually suffocating your own potential? Robert Greene studied the 400 greatest masters in history and discovered they were 10 times more likely to practice one technique that most people consider failure. Today I'm revealing 3 transformative secrets that separate extraordinary achievers from mediocre ones. The first will challenge everything you believe about control, the second will completely transform your relationship with failure, and the third, which I'll only reveal at the end, is the master key that's transformed countless lives and careers. A Harvard Business Review study showed that executives who practice strategic detachment are 34% more likely to reach their goals than those who maintain rigid control. Before I continue, I want you to visualize something. Imagine trying to hold water by squeezing it in your fist. What happens? The tighter you grip, the more it escapes. This same principle might be sabotaging your achievements right now. The path to success is filled with contradictions, isn't it? We're told to work harder, push further, control every variable. And yet, the most successful people in history often talk about letting go. On a scale of 1 to 10, how strongly do you relate to this statement? I have trouble releasing control even when I know it's holding me back. Remember your number. We'll come back to it with a surprising revelation. Today I'm sharing 3 powerful paradoxes that Robert Greene and Ryan Holiday discovered in their research on great achievers. These aren't just theories, they're the actual difference between those who achieve lasting success and those who burn out trying. Consider this. Greene spent decades studying masters like Leonardo da Vinci, Benjamin Franklin, and Mozart for his masterwork, Mastery. What he found wasn't just ambition and discipline, but a surprising capacity to release control at critical moments. Holiday's work on Stoicism reinforces this through ancient wisdom that's proving remarkably effective in today's high-pressure world. Like water finding its path around obstacles rather than trying to force through them, these masters achieved greatness not through rigid control but through strategic surrender. There's a specific reason why the harder you chase certain goals, the more they seem to slip away. It triggers a psychological mechanism that actively sabotages your efforts. By the end of this video, you'll understand not just why this happens but how to reverse it completely. Have you ever noticed that the tighter you grip something, the more likely it is to break? This same principle applies to success, and it's the first transformative secret we need to understand. Robert Greene calls this the paradox of control. His research shows that the most accomplished masters throughout history weren't control freaks. Instead, they understood when precision focus was needed and, this is crucial, when to release that control entirely. Consider Leonardo da Vinci. While painting the Mona Lisa, he would work in furious bursts of concentration, then deliberately walk away, sometimes for days. During these periods of apparent doing nothing, his unconscious mind continued to solve problems. When he returned to the canvas, breakthroughs would happen effortlessly. This pattern of intense focus followed by strategic release appeared consistently among the masters Greene studied. Wait, before we go further, think about an area in your life where you've been pushing hard without progress. What if the solution isn't trying harder, but strategically letting go? Hold that thought. Modern neuroscience confirms this approach with remarkable clarity. When we obsessively focus on a problem, we activate our brain's task-positive network. Perfect for implementation but terrible for innovation. But when we release that grip, when we let go, we activate the default mode network where unexpected connections and creative solutions emerge. Dr. Andrew Huberman's research at Stanford shows this neural shifting produces up to 31% more creative solutions than continuous focus. This explains why so many breakthrough ideas come in the shower, during a walk, or right before sleep. You've stopped trying to control the outcome, allowing your brain's natural problem-solving capacities to engage. The most successful people aren't just hard workers, they're strategic releasers. They know when to push and when to surrender. Greene teaches what he calls the practice of divided attention. Here's how it works. Work intensely on a problem for a defined period, typically 90 minutes based on our natural ultradian rhythms, then deliberately disengage completely. The key is making this disengagement intentional. Not just scrolling through social media but truly releasing your mental grip on the problem. Remember Disney's Frozen? Elsa only discovers her true power when she finally lets go of trying to control her abilities. This same principle applies in real achievement. Controlled release often produces better results than continuous effort. Think about archery. To hit the target, you must eventually release the arrow. Hold too long and your aim deteriorates. The same applies to your goals and projects. The master knows when to hold tight and when to let go. I want you to try something today. Identify one project you've been obsessing over without progress. Set a timer for focused work, then deliberately walk away. Do something completely different, preferably involving physical movement. Pay close attention to what insights emerge when you return. Ask yourself, what areas of your life are you squeezing so tightly that you're suffocating their potential? Where might strategic release, not abandonment but conscious letting go, create space for success to emerge naturally? But here's what's fascinating. Releasing control is just the beginning. The second transformative secret goes against everything we've been taught about failure, and it might be even more powerful. We've been conditioned to believe that failure is the opposite of success. But what if I told you that failure isn't just a stepping stone to success? What if it's actually the essential ingredient most people are missing? Think about this. How many times have you avoided taking action because you were afraid to fail? What if that avoidance itself is the real failure? Ryan Holiday, in his masterful work on Stoicism, emphasizes, the obstacle is the way. This ancient philosophy, practiced by emperors and slaves alike, views setbacks not as roadblocks but as the actual path forward. The impediment to action advances action, wrote Marcus Aurelius. What stands in the way becomes the way. Here's where it gets really interesting. Robert Greene echoes this in Mastery, where he introduces the concept of productive failure. He found that virtuosos in every field experienced more failures than their peers. But crucially, they related to those failures differently. They didn't just learn from failures. They extracted transformative power from them. Let me ask you this. What was your most painful recent failure? Now, what if that exact experience, painful as it was, contains the precise lesson you need for your next breakthrough? What if you've been resisting the very teacher you need most? This connects perfectly with Nassim Taleb's concept of anti-fragility. Systems that don't just withstand stress but actually become stronger because of it. Greene's masters and Holiday's Stoics were anti-fragile. They converted failure energy into growth fuel through a specific psychological mechanism that most people never activate. Consider Steve Jobs. His very public failure, being ousted from Apple, wasn't just something he overcame. It was the specific experience that transformed him into the leader who could later revolutionize multiple industries. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again, Jobs said. Without that failure, there would be no iPhone in your pocket. The gap between average achievers and extraordinary ones isn't their capacity to avoid failure. It's their relationship with failure when it happens. Most people treat failure like a hot stove. Touch it once, never again. Masters treat failure like a laboratory. Each failed experiment providing crucial data for the ultimate breakthrough. The Stoics practiced a technique called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. They would visualize and accept the worst possible scenario before undertaking any important venture. This mental preparation freed them from the paralysis of fear. Research from Harvard Business School shows this technique reduces anxiety by up to 40% during high-stakes situations. Here's a 3-step process to transform any failure into fuel for success that you can implement today. 1. Ask, what's the data here? Extract the lesson without judgment. 2. Ask, how is this necessary for my growth? Find the purpose. 3. Ask, how will I use this? Convert insight to action. Take a moment and think about the last failure that really shook you. What wisdom was hidden inside that painful experience? What growth was it trying to catalyze in you? Greene found that those who reached mastery failed on average 3.8 times more than their peers, but extracted 5x more insight from each failure. This isn't just theoretical. It's the actual measurable difference between those who achieve greatness and those who remain stuck. But even when we master releasing control and embracing failure, there remains an invisible and even more powerful obstacle. It's the third transformative secret Robert Greene identified in The Greatest Achievers in History, and it might be the hardest paradox to accept. Remember that number from 1 to 10 you mentally noted earlier about your attachment to control? Here's the revelation I promised. That number directly correlates with the strength of your ego attachment. And this brings us to our third and most profound paradox. The third transformative secret might be the hardest to accept. Our attachment to our identity and need for recognition often sabotages our greatest achievements. Let me ask you a powerful question. Are you working toward meaningful achievement or just trying to prove something? The difference is subtle but crucial. Ryan Holiday named an entire book after this concept. Ego is the enemy. He observed that at each stage of our journey, aspiration, success, and failure, the ego presents a unique threat to our continued growth. The ego we see most commonly goes by a more casual definition, writes Holiday, an unhealthy belief in our own importance, self-centered ambition. It's that petulant child inside every person, the one that chooses getting his or her way over anything else. Think about your last argument or disagreement. How much of it was about genuinely seeking truth and how much was about being right? Be ruthlessly honest with yourself. Robert Greene's research revealed something fascinating about people who achieved mastery. They subordinated their egos to a greater purpose. While their contemporaries sought recognition and validation, these masters were focused on the work itself, often to an obsessive degree. In Greene's words, your sense of who you are will determine your actions and what you end up getting in life. This runs completely counter to today's culture of self-promotion and personal branding. We're taught to curate our image, seek validation, and broadcast our achievements. Yet Greene found that the truly exceptional did exactly the opposite. They often labored in obscurity, caring more about the quality of their work than who got credit. Studies from the University of Chicago show that this ego subordination correlates with 42% higher rates of breakthrough innovation. Benjamin Franklin understood this paradox intuitively. When proposing new ideas in Philadelphia, he deliberately downplayed his own role, sometimes even attributing his ideas to a friend. By reducing his ego's footprint, he actually increased his influence and effectiveness. His autobiography reveals this was a conscious strategy, not just modesty. Consider Steve Harvey's remarkable transformation. Before becoming a household name, Harvey experienced homelessness and lived in his car for 3 years. In interviews, he often emphasizes how surrendering his ego and embracing humility was crucial to his breakthrough. Success is not a destination but a journey, Harvey says. When I stopped focusing on myself and started focusing on how I could serve others with my comedy, everything changed. The Stoics practiced what they called amor fati, the love of fate. This meant not just accepting whatever happened, but loving it, embracing it as necessary for their journey. This practice transcends the ego's constant need to control narratives and outcomes. As Epictetus said, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. Let me offer a quick self-diagnostic to see if ego might be sabotaging your success. 1. Do you find yourself more concerned with being recognized for work than the quality of the work itself? 2. When receiving criticism, is your first reaction to defend rather than consider? 3. Do you find it difficult to change direction when evidence suggests you should? If you answered yes to any of these, your ego might be acting as an anchor, preventing your ship from sailing freely toward success. This principle is beautifully portrayed in the film Rocky Balboa, when the title character tells his son, "It ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward." But there's one final paradox, perhaps the most powerful of all, that unifies everything we've discussed so far. It's the master key that can unlock extraordinary achievement. What if I told you that the ultimate power move isn't taking control but strategically surrendering it? This might be the most counterintuitive yet transformative principle we've covered. The final paradox is what Robert Greene might call strategic surrender, not to be confused with giving up. This paradox teaches us that the ultimate personal power often comes from deliberately surrendering control. Let me first differentiate this from simple passivity. Strategic surrender is active. It's a conscious choice to release attachment while maintaining intention. It's the martial artist who uses an opponent's force rather than resisting it. Greene's law of reversal shows how masters invert conventional approaches. When others push, they pull. When others accelerate, they slow down. When others cling, they release. This counterintuitive approach often unlocks possibilities invisible to those following conventional wisdom. The master of power, writes Greene, knows when to flip the dynamic. Have you ever noticed that the moment you stop obsessing over a problem, the solution often appears? That's strategic surrender in action. Ryan Holiday explores this in Stillness is the Key, showing how power emerges through quietude rather than constant action. This connects perfectly with the ancient Taoist concept of Wu Wei, effortless action or non-doing, where perfect effectiveness emerges from alignment rather than force. The supreme good is like water, wrote Lao Tzu, which nourishes all things without trying to. Stop for a moment and try this micro-experiment in surrender. For the next few seconds, completely release any outcome of watching this video. Let go of what you hope to gain. Did you notice that subtle shift in energy? That tiny release is the beginning of strategic surrender. Look at Olympic athletes in their peak performances. They describe a state where they're no longer trying to perform. They've surrendered to the moment, entering what psychologists call flow state. Michael Phelps, winner of 23 Olympic gold medals, described it as letting go and just being. In this state of strategic surrender, they often achieve their greatest feats. Research shows performance improvements of up to 500% in flow states versus normal conscious effort. Les Brown, one of America's top motivational speakers, embodies this principle perfectly. After being labeled educable mentally retarded in school and facing homelessness, Brown could have remained bitter and controlling. Instead, he practiced strategic surrender, accepting his circumstances while refusing to be defined by them. Let go of your ego and watch yourself soar, Brown often says. His willingness to surrender his old identity opened the door to becoming one of the world's most influential voices. Take Satya Nadella, who transformed Microsoft by surrendering the company's old identity. When he became CEO, Microsoft was clinging desperately to Windows dominance. By letting go of this attachment and embracing open source, once considered blasphemy at Microsoft, he created the conditions for unprecedented growth and innovation. Since this strategic surrender, Microsoft's stock has increased by over 400%. Greene teaches what he calls the death of ego practice to develop strategic surrender. It requires temporarily setting aside your identity and preferences to fully immerse in the reality of the situation, seeing what is not what you wish were true. The greatest generals, Greene notes, are those who can surrender their original plan when circumstances demand it. This approach works on multiple levels. Neurologically, it shifts brain activity from the task-positive network to more integrative states, activating what neuroscientists call whole brain synchronization. Psychologically, it bypasses the resistance created by ego attachment. And practically, it allows you to respond to what's actually happening rather than your preconceptions. When you master this final paradox, opportunities don't just appear, they pursue you. Why? Because you've removed the very resistance that was blocking them. Strategic surrender doesn't mean giving up on your goals. It means giving up your attachment to how they must be achieved. We've explored 4 powerful paradoxes that challenge conventional wisdom about success. The paradox of control. Sometimes we must release control to gain it. The paradox of failure. Our setbacks are often our greatest assets. The paradox of ego. Our self-importance blocks our importance. The paradox of strategic surrender. We gain supreme power by letting go. Together, these form an integrated system for sustainable success. One that doesn't burn you out or leave you hollow inside. This wisdom appears throughout popular culture. In the film, The Last Samurai, Tom Cruise's character only becomes a master swordsman when he stops trying to win and surrenders to the moment. No mind, his teacher instructs. The Matrix's iconic, "There is no spoon," scene illustrates perfectly how releasing mental rigidity allows us to achieve the seemingly impossible. The Oscar-winning film, Everything Everywhere All at Once, masterfully portrays this paradox as well. The protagonist only achieves her ultimate power when she stops fighting against the chaos and instead embraces it, becoming stronger through surrender rather than control. As Denzel Washington often says in his speeches to young people, fall forward. This embodies the paradox of failure, the willingness to fall but always in the direction of your dreams. If you remember just one thing from this video, let it be this. True power doesn't come from obsessive control but from knowing when to let go. This single shift can transform not just your results, but your entire experience of the journey. So I'm curious, what area of your life needs this paradox of letting go right now? Where might strategic surrender create the breakthrough you've been pushing so hard to achieve? Imagine yourself 6 months from now, consciously practicing these paradoxes daily. How would your relationship with work be different? How would your interactions change? How would your internal sense of peace and power transform? I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Share one area where you're going to practice letting go this week. And if you found value in this, please hit that like button and subscribe for more insights that challenge conventional wisdom. Remember, as the ancient wisdom teaches, when you release the arrow, that's when it finally reaches its target. When you let go of the shore, that's when you discover the vastness of the ocean. And when you surrender your attachment to how success must look, that's when true achievement finally finds you. Hey, incredible growth seekers! Wow, what a journey! If this video resonated, subscribe now for more life-changing content. Join our community of self-improvers. Smash that like button to fuel more content on mindfulness, goal setting, and emotional intelligence. Share this video to create a ripple of positive change. Comment below about your growth journey. Your insights shape our content. Next week, boosting self-confidence and overcoming limiting beliefs. Don't miss it. Every interaction brings us closer to a world of empowered individuals. Let's make personal development global. Stay inspired, keep growing. Your best self awaits. Let's unlock it together.